Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Tonight is a night to start finding platforms in order to heal. Tonight, we are going to embrace tonight with Saturday Night Talk, Mental Health Awareness Month. In order to heal, I feel like we will we need to engage with other platforms. So with that being said, you guys, we are trying to come together. I'm saying we because in a few minutes I'm going to let you or introduce you to the people that are going to be on tonight. You can simply support me by sending stars to help me earn the money to make more content, better content. Okay, so let's talk about problems, solutions, assist many who need a safe place to voice their opinion. Tonight is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we'd like to hear your opinions, concerns, and share with anybody with like minds. So please share this out. It may not be your cup of tea, but it can be somebody else's slice of the loaf. With that being said, anybody can get a piece of information on a live that can help them, that can take them a long way. So tonight on the panel, we have Dr. Dorothy, aka Dr. D, and we also have Nurse Marie McKenzie, sexual assault recovery coach, and your host, that's me. I am simplyjewel. Well, let me bring them on. Dr. Dorothy.
Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone.
I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to get my hair and everything together, and I ran out of time. So, as I say, for those that want not to stress, because what they see is what they get tonight.
All right. Sounds
good. And here we have Nurse Marie McKenzie. Welcome to the platform.
I was trying to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We want to start out with some happy notes, and we can let people come on as they're coming on. Feel free to have your beverage, your snack, and whatever, because we're going to act like we're sitting on our front porch. And you know how we do. With Mental Health Month, let's talk about the stigmas, how mental health affects us all. It affects our diet, people who are grieving, people who are struggling with not even knowing how to handle grief or forgiveness or any trauma for that matter. So, what do you say? We all say, let's break the stigma. So let's just talk about it. Let's talk about it. What do you guys think?
Well, Marie. Oh, go ahead, doctor. No. Marie, go ahead.
Marie, and I deal with sexual assault survivors, and sexual assault, mental health affects sexual assault survivors in different ways. Everyone reacts to trauma in different ways. And because you're affected by mental health subsequent to sexual assault, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're disabled, and you are not alone. The way mental health shows up after sexual assault may be problems sleeping, either sleeping too much or not being able to sleep at all. It may affect the way you eat, eating too much. I've spoken to survivors who ate like 3 large family-sized pizzas and 3 Coke and then cry afterwards because they felt so bad about themselves. Or there are others who have anorexia; they just can't eat at all. So, and in your relationships, they may not be able to trust others, either themselves or a partner, or enough to even breaks the love and intimacy from, an intimate relationship from a partner. So it shows up in different ways that different people. Some may have anxiety, panic attack, or post-traumatic stress, flashbacks to the traumatic event as if it was happening right now. So those are some of the ways it affects sexual assault survivors. And Mental Health Awareness Month is 1 month that we talk about it, but this is a 365, 24/7 conversation, not just for the month of May.
Yeah,
that's many of the responses that you described. Oh, by the way, Jewel, the music is still on in the background, and I think it's interfering with reception. But what I was saying is that many of the aspects of women and perhaps men who are recovering from sexual assault mimic or mirror the dimensions of grief that people carry around with them. The reasons may be different, the times may be different, but the whole concept of grief and loss has to do with just that. There are so many ways that we respond. When my daughter died, I never had much of an appetite in the first place. Well, I absolutely lost my appetite and had to be forced to eat or reminded that I should eat. So there's so many of the same symptoms, so many of the same dimensions. Yours is a very specialized area, but everybody has suffered some form of grief, and everybody has suffered some form of loss. In fact, we grieve so much that we take it for granted, and sometimes have to be reminded that there's a reason why our behavior has changed, or why the way we look at things has changed. That's grief.
Yes.
That's the loss.
Yes, that's true. Now, that's another thing, mental health. And well, go ahead, Marie. You were going to say something else too?
Oh, I was just saying that it affects everyone differently, and
Okay.
linking it to grief. Sexual assault is like you've lost yourself, the one part of you that you were supposed to have total control of, that's stripped away. Your body, you're supposed to be in control, and someone didn't listen to your no, or you were not able to say no because the control was taken away from you. You were totally violated. So that's grieving for the loss of self, to link it with Dr. D's.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hello, Marva. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Hi, Marva. Glad. Thanks for coming on. You're always welcome. And that's with that being said, we'll put the link up in a little bit so that if anybody wants to come on, they can come on. We had so much to talk about. How can we break the stigma, eradicate the stigma of mental health? A lot of people don't know how to identify, and I'm starting to see. Let me just play this episode. Well, not an episode. I was watching something the other day and reading something the other day, and let's talk about how it was back in the day, how we didn't say anything, we couldn't say anything. And so I found this article. Let me put my disclaimer up because I found the article, and then Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know if you guys watch The View, but one week, the other, she was talking about what it was like. And I'm starting to think that's how it was back in the day, where people just couldn't say much. You guys let me know what you think. I'm gonna add this on, if I may, because I'm not sure if I did it right, but this is something we can talk about. Okay?
Well, Jewel,
You know,
Jewel,
in those days, kids were told nothing.
Right.
Parents just disappeared. Things happened, and for me, it was really kind of like, oh, so they've taken her to this hospital, and no one's going to tell me anything, and I can't go see her.
And they didn't even tell you she's getting better or she's
No,
nothing.
they just never mentioned it because
I
that's
can't
what you
imagine the
did.
pain of carrying
You didn't
that
do
as a
that.
young child
Yeah.
with no explanation.
But we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We didn't know that now we discuss everything with children, and maybe that's not the greatest thing to be doing. No, it's better.
Jewel,
Yes, I see. Yes. Have we been going all this time with music on?
yes, that's what
We've
I'm
been telling
trying
you.
to tell you.
Oh, wow, guys. Well, I wonder if it's good, if it's bad, if it was too much. Could people hear? Because I thought it actually was muted. So I apologize for that. Do we need to start over?
No. Let's
No,
continue.
I think
Okay.
we'll catch up, and
Yes.
we'll probably repeat some of the things.
Yeah.
And that was Whoopi Goldberg, I think, that I saw
Yes.
on The View. And she accurately described the generation in which she grew up. And I'm not quite sure it's changed all of that much because there's still that stigma that something is wrong with you if you don't behave the way you're expected to behave, or if you seek help. If you seek help from Marie, then you might worry or wonder about how people are looking at that. Is she crazy? Is she losing her mind? What happened? And we tend to want to know the dirty or that kind of stuff, but not really the genesis, the reason
Right.
that help is needed.
Yes.
Help is needed for a reason.
Yeah.
One doesn't just choose to have mental health issues. Something has precipitated it.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to zero in on. Those are the questions that we should ask, because those are legitimate questions. Questions that we ask just because we're nosy or bored. We don't need to ask.
Right.
I was listening to the news a couple weeks ago. There's a hospital in Florida that, was talking about how they're expanding and about how children as young as 2 are increasingly being diagnosed with mental health conditions.
Mhm.
And the same thing I was talking about, are what are they investigating before they slap the labels on? Are they investigating what kind of trauma the child may have experienced or witnessed in some form or the other before they slap the label on and start medicating? Are they investigating alternative treatments if the diagnosis is legitimate, because it's children as young as 2? That was very scary. Very, very
And
scary to see that.
it's interesting, Marie, the alternatives, because what I'm reading now says that food can make a big difference. That
Exactly.
instead of jumping to a medicine, let's look at the food that we eat.
Yes.
And I'm saying that because within the last 2 months, I have changed a lot of my eating patterns. Now, as I said before, I don't have much of an appetite, but I have consciously started adding greens. I've consciously tried to eat clean and buy clean. And when I have the time to read about ways that
Mhm.
food makes a difference, a positive difference in the way I respond to life.
Yes. In December 23rd, I went completely vegan, oil free, nut free for health reasons. And I can tell you, at the age of 62, my gut has never felt so good in my life. The
Good.
mental clarity, I lost 20 pounds just like that. I've actually started eating more just so I wouldn't lose more weight. And even with eating more, I kept losing. So when you eat clean, it affects your mental health, your overall well-being. So
Yes.
not everything needs a pill.
Yeah. And
Right.
why
It's
don't
not.
you all, because you all are experts, why don't you all talk about what it means to eat clean? Because I'm just learning about it.
Yes, for me,
Yeah.
eating clean and what I do, I'm 100% plant-based. No meat, nothing with a mother or a face. So no eggs or, dairy. I don't cook with oils. I know when I go out to eat, I may not be able to get oil free 100% of the time, but I don't cook with oils. I don't do nuts because of a high fat content. Avocado, I love, but I seldom use it because of a fat. And I used to love coconut cream and coconut milk and everything in my stew, in my coffee. But coconut oil is one of the worst oil. It's full of saturated fats. So that's out for me. And well, every oil is out for me. So
Now,
yes, that's what
see,
eating clean means for me.
that's different because for me, I'm allergic to nuts and I grew up this way. So for me, I eat clean, I eat healthy. Did you say you don't eat duck?
Nuts,
Nuts.
because of the high fat
Somebody
content.
said that's high in that is high in fat, but
Yeah.
someone that I was talking to today, they're like, "Oh, I don't eat duck," and I'm like, "Well, I had confetti duck. I don't eat a lot of meat. My meat, I used to be allergic to all fish, but I could have shrimp, and I now eat salmon, um, shrimp. I can now have scallops. Um, and I can't eat stuff like orange roughy. So no nuts. I can have sunflower seeds, I can have pumpkin seeds, but here's the other thing. Everybody's body chemistry is different.
Everybody's different.
And that's the problem I have with watching a lot of these people on their platforms is that it's good if it's for them. But for other people, like you say, you don't cook with oil. Now, I cook with oil on some things, but I use extra virgin olive oil. I used to use canola oil till I read more into it, did more research. A lot of people eat green leafy vegetables. I'm going to start doing that as well. We also talk about cooking. You'll notice that I cook because I have meat eaters in my house. Just because they eat meat doesn't mean I have to, but I
Yeah,
always prepare the vegetables or potatoes or anything else. So I think if people start making healthier choices, it's not about what the other person is doing.
exactly.
I think it's about what works best for your body.
Yeah.
If you have a disease or a diagnosis, what works best for that ailment. So, those are the things that we can help people with.
Yes.
There's so much. We have to tweak it.
Yes.
It
Because
isn't.
I don't eat any meat at all. No meat, no fish, nothing. Nothing with a mother or a face. But I cook meat at home because my husband eats meat and fish. Salmon is something I used to eat almost every because I love salmon. I found out late last year that I'm allergic to shrimp, But that was before I stopped eating all these things. But now it's just 100% meat free.
Yeah,
Well,
that's good. Now, even talk about, people coming from different islands and they're used to different fruits. We have just been introduced to different fruits. That's Marie. I think that was a delayed reaction. It said Marie. Also, the
That was
children need to go
Marvel.
outside and play, or
It's
Marva.
Marvel. Yes.
Many
Yeah.
cannot because the parents are too busy working and the 2-year-olds act out. Well, that's a thing,
and
Who wants
she's
to
right.
answer that first?
Well, she's right. Kids do need to go out to play.
Yes, they
Kids
do.
need to do a lot of things that parents may not be able for them to do. Because as you all were talking, I was thinking historically about the Africans who were brought here in 1619 as slaves. No power, no nothing, had to eat the the throwaway products from the slave owner or the slave master, yet they were strong enough. And I think it's based on the previous centuries of living in Africa and living with both plants and animals. But at any rate, our forefathers adapted and adjusted, and I don't know how they did it.
But they did.
I'm glad I didn't have to do it because I would have been a dead slave very early. But our forefathers adapted to a different diet, a different climate, although they were brought over because they were used to heat and sun and all of those kinds of things. So, yeah, the ideal is always the ideal, but I have to look at what I'm able to do so that I don't unnecessarily measure myself by a yardstick that I'm unable to meet.
Well,
Did
and
you
a lot
listen
of and back in our ancestors too, they were used to being active, very little meat, and then the climate, like you had mentioned. But what like you say, the things you're able to do. I know that you eat more greens, but the thing about it is, our my grandmother, great grandmother, they all had farms and the soil was different and they were able to have all the fruits and vegetables and chickens. But now we're like Marvel was saying, people are so busy working. That's true, but at what point do we get back to basics? See, that's where the mental health comes from as well. We're so busy doing everything else instead of caring for ourselves, instead of slowing down. Because if we slow down, we can slow down the process of disease and diagnosis. What do you think about that?
Well, who tells us how to do it? How do you slow down? Two families, the man and woman, the husband and wife, have had to go out and work, each one of them, since the 1950s, according to the research and what I've read. So we have become so accustomed to two income families that now it's deteriorated to two income families, but they may be working six different jobs.
They're
Well,
We have very little control over the economy. We have very little control. And I'm not saying we have no control. I said very little control. And we can be ingenious enough or creative enough to do many things. Look at the history of jazz for that matter, but we can do things. I just wonder how realistic it is and how people take it when you say you got to get back to basics, you got to do this, you got to take time to do this, when mostly all of us are trying to survive.
Yeah, but in our trying to survive, I totally agree with Joe. We have to be intentional about taking time out for ourselves, learning to say no and don't accept things or projects that we don't really want to do. We're just doing to please others. I've been intentional about caring for myself for a lot of years now because as a sexual assault survivors, that's one of the things we struggle with, caring for ourselves, not trying to please everybody and trying to, look good in front of others. So taking time out to exercise, manage my diet, saying no, not being busy, pleasing everybody else and putting myself last. If you don't care for yourself, you won't be able to show up for yourself and family or anyone. As a
That's
registered
right.
nurse, I'm going to work and taking care of people. If I don't take care of myself, I won't have what to give.
Yeah,
So
gotta put
I
yourself
strongly
first.
believe in getting back to basics and putting yourself first.
Let's just remember the messages that we have been given since we could listen and understand.
But we
And
refuse that message now that we know
we
better.
can do it now, but let's just keep it in perspective.
Mhm.
There are some people who have not heard of about any of this because they've been so busy surviving.
Well,
I
Dr. D,
probably,
that's why we're here today,
yeah,
is
well,
to educate and to bring awareness. Because, yeah, people were trying to survive. But remember that saying, keeping up with the Joneses? That's why people are sick. That's why people have high blood pressure, because they're so busy keeping up
That's
with
why
the
they drop dead
Joneses.
at a young age.
I
Yeah.
we probably are in violent agreement, but I think I need to speak for those people who right now aren't calling in and speaking for themselves because I'm sure I speak for many people who have swallowed so much of what they've been fed without being taught to discriminate what they are being told. You got to think critically, which means you have to be taught by somebody how to think critically, how to think so that when misinformation hits you in the face, you know how to deal with it. And we have so much misinformation and bad information that people are walking around in a fog. They don't know what to believe. They don't know which expert is the expert. We have fads. I remember years ago reading forever. Everybody ought to drink 8 ounce glasses of water a day. Well, that might have been true for some people, but
Exactly.
for others, it caused kidney problems. I know because it's happened in my family. Trying to be healthy and drinking 64 ounces of water a day compromised their kidney function.
Well, that goes to show you everybody's different. That is the guidelines that they set. But just like anything else, Dr. D, they're giving, let's just face it, a lot of people are on metformin. They start them out with 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams a day. That doesn't mean it's for everybody. You see, so that they're giving people, well, like, uh, they'll tell you drink 8 ounce glass of water. Well, if you weigh 400 pounds and you're drinking 8 ounces of or 8 glasses of water, you're supposed to drink more. If you don't go to the doctors and get your blood drawn and know what is going on with your body, you cannot follow the leader. You have to know what your body is saying. You have to know what your blood levels are doing. And so I'm going to be that person that, like I say on my platform, it's what I'm trying to do, bring awareness to people, individualize each regime, because no two people should be on the same regime. Um,
unless it's determined through testing that they need to be. So individualized, some people can be on the same if that's what it's determined. But I totally agree. Don't just follow someone else.
yeah. So I think that's good. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are trying to make healthy choices. People need to slow down. How do they do that? Work with whatever issues are within your household. Prioritize what's going on in your household. Now, let's face it, some people don't even have communication skills. So we have to do a little bit at a time. But that's why these platforms are important, because everybody um, doesn't have the same question. Everybody doesn't have the same issues, but we all are struggling with something,
With
you
something.
see.
You know,
Yeah.
you all make it sound like it is almost a utopian society. You make it sound as if every medical doctor is a professional who is well read, who knows and has practiced medicine, who has success stories. And that's not always the truth, because many times people who have HMOs, for example, don't get really a choice of a specific doctor. They are seen in 20 to 30-minute increments. If you get a 30-minute session with most doctors, you are walking in tall cotton, because you're on an assembly line in most situations. So I can try and be discerning. I can try and employ critical skills, but I have no way of ranking or even being able to rank the doctor that I end up with. Sometimes it's just by default. Sometimes the doctor is assigned. Now, I'm not knocking doctors. I'm not knocking nurses, the healthcare field, or any of that. I'm speaking simply as a layperson who's had experience in different cities, states, and other places for many, many years. I'm a former school teacher, so I've worked with children and adults because I've taught graduate school, I've taught undergraduate, but I've worked with all kinds of people, each of whom has a different story to tell. And what I try to do, number one, is to teach listening skills, because that's so important.
Very.
And then to give of what I know that can be documented. There are just too many conditions that we can't lump into something and say, now, go do it. I've given you the tools, go do it. Because trust
Well,
comes
there.
into some place.
Well, let's just say this for those that are listening. You guys make sure you're sharing this out, because somebody will need it. Uh, Also, know this: I am able to assist those and give them the tools to slow down. And you're right about doctors. We're not bashing them, but fact, it's hard to get into the doctors. You're waiting 2 to 3 months to get into the doctors in certain areas. Some doctors themselves are struggling. They are on medical leave, or whatever that we know. That's why Mental Health Awareness Month is important, because some people with different insurance, listen, if you've been going to the same doctor for 20 years and you, like they used to say, if you're not being scratched where you itch, which means if you're not getting the answers and you know something is wrong with your body, it is crazy trying to find a new doctor, because you got to go in, you got to visit the doctor, you got to see if they're taking new patients. It's crazy. So that's why people need the tools to start helping themselves, making
Oh,
healthier
I
choices.
agree.
And
I
yeah,
agree. I absolutely agree with
And
everything you're saying. But I have
yes,
a niece who was a nurse practitioner, and she used to come home and tell us about when doctors were making their rounds and they were trying to figure out the diagnosis. You know who they turned to? Not a colleague, but the nurse or the nurse
or the
practitioner
scientists
who
that
was there.
do the research. We do the research. Where do you think they get in there? Some doctors, though, will put in the research. That's why I say, and I don't
I'm not,
know, my opinion,
yes, some
I would
doctors
look
do
for a
research.
DO. Say
yeah, I'm
that,
not
Marie.
trying to paint everybody with the same
And
brush.
some doctors collaborate with their team, their nurses and other members of the team. It's a
Yeah,
multidisciplinary team. Physical
yeah. There,
therapists, occupational case managers. So there are many, many, many excellent doctors out there.
Well, let's just hope
yeah,
Even
people
with
get
your
these things.
doctor, you are in charge of your health. You're responsible for looking at those medications. What are the side effects? What's it doing for me? What, because a lot of the medications, they fix something, but then the side effects are like crazy: liver damage, memory loss, like the statins do.
Yeah,
So make sure you're asking questions and doing research on your own.
yeah. You are both of you are absolutely right. I think I'm talking to two nurses also, and that's very important because nurses are what I call boots on the ground.
Yes.
You have direct
well,
contact. I go to an internist because I see her as a medical detective,
Yes.
and she spends the time to answer my questions, to give me information, to make suggestions. But I think I'm rare in that regard. I may be wrong, but that we
yeah,
just
because
have
not
to.
all doctors, not all, but some. I think it depends on where you live. I also know this, though. I think the population and the acuity, depending on where you are. I know here in our state, it's a bit hectic right now. All places are not like that, which is why people, it's good to hire coaches, like Marie. She's a coach and specialize in her area. I'm coaching and assisting people with healthy choices in my area. So it just depends. But that's why these conversations are needed, so that we can get people used to asking questions, finding out if they don't have the tools, how to gain the tools, um, making healthy choices, making appointments just for their disease or diagnose. I mean, it's so much we can talk about, even in mental health. There was a question that I think you once asked, how does one motivate oneself? That was earlier, to get back to basics, to speak positivity, to find positive people, to connect to your higher power, pray, meditate. There's so much we can talk about. We can go on and on and on.
Well, we've made such a a thing about specialties. The old-fashioned GP, general practitioner, is history. And everybody has to have a specialization in a certain kind of area, to the extent that sometimes it becomes ridiculous, because then there is a specialization inside of that specialization. But we have minimized old-fashioned thinking skills, looking for the expert. We pay more
You
attention
know
to the
what?
expert.
I have a GP plus specialist. The GP manages all my health, including what my specialist. When I need specialists, he refers me to the specialist because it's not his area. Those are people who spend extensive training and research in certain areas, like a cardiologist or a gastroenterologist.
Mhm.
So those you're referred to those people by your general practitioner. So I'm not aware that their history. So maybe I'm just in a different area.
Well, I'm just saying that we probably are in violent agreement among the four of us. I'm not disagreeing, but I am throwing those things out there that I have either heard from other people or have experienced myself in the
Mhm.
medical field, especially in the mental health field.
Oh,
And
mental
we
health.
need to get back to how we deal or erase the stigma of seeking help for emotional illnesses.
Yes, there's no shame in seeking help. No
Yeah,
shame in admitting that you need help.
none.
Right.
None at all.
And
But with
especially now, because there's so many stressors, it's over 50% now of people struggling mentally. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. I'm talking about anxiety, people that are having a hard time processing things. Why? We are in a social media climate where everything is going so rapidly and people don't even know how to put the phone down. Maybe read instead of watching everything on social platforms. Maybe only be on the social platform, 3 times a week instead of 7 times a week. There's so many things to reduce, mental uh
Stress. Stress.
mental stress, anxiety. There's so many things, even people's jobs. I'm reading where now the job sites are including it in a person's work week to go and get help because they're suffering mentally. They're having a hard time um, making decisions. So it's so broad, not just the diet. And then
it's the
people have lost love.
misinformation.
Yeah,
There
many
is so
hospitals.
much misinformation on social media, on news feeds, in newspapers. There is a conscious decision
Yes.
having been made by the power brokers to give out misinformation and false information
Yes.
and not to correct it. So it's on TV, it's on the news. You hear it, you accept it as truth because the person reading the news has just read it and has cited an expert in whatever the area is, only to find out a week later it was misinformation.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there
you
are
got to
people
do
who
your research.
We're being lied to all the time.
deliberately pander misinformation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sad to
And you got
say.
to
So
do
we
your
have to be
research.
careful of our sources.
Yes,
So be
yes.
careful of our
Yeah.
sources. And I was saying earlier, there are many hospitals who frequently have monthly wellness Fridays or days of the week where they promote well-being, either coloring, they have massage
Yeah.
therapies, affirmations, different
Yeah.
things. My healthcare system does that on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They
good.
they are coming into the 21st century. I have no doubt, because there is a desire to have a vibrant workforce,
Yes.
a problem solving workforce, a decision making workforce. So many of them, not enough right now,
I
but many
totally
of them
agree.
are doing those kinds of things. A friend of mine works in an area and where she has to be on the phone, it looks like forever. And she said one of the managers will walk around with coloring pages and crayon and just put it
Yeah.
on the desk.
Yes. Take a
So,
break.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you guys have a hobby? What kind of things do you like to do to relieve stress?
I
Gone, Marie.
Go ahead, Dr. D.
I read.
Yes.
One of the most important things in the world for me is reading. My mother taught me to read before I started kindergarten.
What's
And
your
she,
genre? What's
huh?
your favorite genre? What do you read?
I read everything, including bread wrappers. If I've run out of a novel or a paper, I will read. I learned to read, and my mother must have been a genius because she taught me using the King James Version of the Bible, if you can believe it. But before I went to kindergarten, I could read. And I grew up, believe it or not, very tall and very thin, string bean thin, and very shy. So my refuge was a book. And even now, if I don't buy a book or get a book or two from the library, I get the shakes because
Mhm.
I just need to read. I also walk. Those
Good.
are the two main things that I do for fun.
I love to lift weights and journal. Those are two of my main ones. And affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Oh, affirmation. I wish I had have done that one. Um, I actually wish I had downloaded this one, an affirmation that this lady was talking about. But what was it that I was going to say? I saw this lady on TikTok. And I've been following her for a while. And she even said, we got to get back to basics. What she was saying is, people talking about their leg is aching, their knee is aching, they don't this, they don't that. She said, at what point do you rebuke the devil? She said, no, nobody's rebuking the devil. We got to start rebuking the devil and get back to basics and heal that mind. And I was like, you know what? There are some things that people say, oh, we don't do anymore. But it kept us in a state of mind
What do
Well,
people do these
where
days when
people
they
weren't
start having
second guessing.
what do people do these days when they start feeling aches and pain? They sit down, they lay down. Activity is one of the best remedy.
that is right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And I think it's in First or Second Peter where he says, "Obey God, resist the devil, and he will flee."
Mhm.
So he can
Yes.
run away uh, in one direction, and you can run in the other. But yeah,
Yep.
resist. Don't give up. Don't just throw up your hands and say, "Oh my goodness, all is lost."
Yes, it's not.
Because we are filled with power,
Yes.
whether
Yes.
we recognize it or not. We
Yes.
are power filled. We're
Yeah.
powerful,
Yes.
but
Beyond
we
our
don't
wildest dreams.
always uh, accept it or receive it. But we have power.
Yes.
we're made in the image and likeness of God. So what does that mean? If it means that we're weak, no, because God is strong. And I'm not proselytizing. I know my sisters are always telling me that I sound like I'm preaching. I'm not.
Preach,
I'm
sister.
not even trying to preach. I
Preach,
think
sister.
I think if I tried to preach, I could though. But that's part of teaching also. I mean, you teach, you preach a little bit, but I don't do it intentionally. All I'm trying to do is give out information and information that's accurate, information that's descriptive, information that can be used. And that has come about as a result of the blogs that I write because I say I don't write them. Spirit writes them. And I mean a capital S, and I mean the Holy Spirit, because we all know there are a whole bunch of spirits out there.
Yes.
And I just can't have any kind of spirit coming through my head to my hand. But I sit at the computer and my prayer is, God, you write and I'll type. And I haven't changed it to I'll use the keyboard because there's no rhyme in that. But it comes from him. And I do. I journal. I've taught journaling to kids as young as sixth grade and as old as graduate students because it makes so much difference. Marie, you know, when you can engage with yourself
Yes.
on paper, it's
Yes.
like having a dialogue.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's true. Hi, Kathy. Let me know if you guys want to come on or not. I haven't put the link in. We are at the 51-minute mark. So if you'd like to come on, I'll go ahead and share the link. We have Kathy Porter. She's saying hello to everyone.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Kathy. Yes. Well, and that's true, but a lot of people I've noticed they don't want to talk about religion. It's not about religion. It's about having a personal relationship. And in these times, I don't care who you are, what you are. If you are not in a relationship with your higher power, you're part of the problem. That's my 2 cents, and I'm not taking it back.
And that's not
So
religion.
let
That's not
me,
religion. That is not
yes,
religion.
it's not right. So I'm going to put the link in to see if anybody wants to come on. If you don't, it's perfectly fine.
Do
It
you all
is
remember? Do
on
you remember
YouTube. You
the
can get it
political
on
correction?
Facebook. I'm sorry, say it again.
I said, do you all remember the political correction generation? I can't remember if it was the 80s or 90s, but everything had to be politically correct. You couldn't say a common noun. You had to spruce it up.
Wasn't it the 20s? I don't know.
It was the
Yeah.
80s or 90s or whenever, but we went through that PC generation. At least I did,
Yeah.
where the different places I've lived.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People are so sensitive. You can't say anything. They get offended. And that's another thing. There was a gentleman, a Buck star. I think he was uh a football player, and he asked the lady who interviewed him, are you supporting and following my page? And she said no. And he said, well, then you can't interview me. And do
What?
you know they barred him? So people are getting barred for no reason, and that's not okay. Let's see, we've got some comments here. Kathy says, I just got home. Sorry I'm late. That's okay, Kathy. If you want to talk, grab the link. It is on YouTube. Just click on the link and follow the prompts. Okay. And what
Is it
else is
possible to
said?
put it in the
You can't,
comment?
yeah, you can't say anything anymore. Nowadays, everybody's got a problem. Everybody's got an issue, and I think I can share that. And he was perfectly fine. If you're not supporting me, he says, then why are you interviewing me? And they barred him. See, and that's not fair because a lot of people are saying things. They said he was rude, he was disrespectful, but that's not fair because nobody, if you're not following him and you don't know what he's going through, then you can't judge. Because a lot of people come in, get half the information and try to speak on somebody and not even know the whole story. But I think I can share that. Do you want me to share it or are you okay?
Yeah, we're okay without it.
Want to see it?
Yeah, let's stick with our topic on mental health.
Oh, not
And
tonight. Okay.
yes.
Well, that's totally up to you. That's fine. We are going to be on until the end of May. As you know, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. You don't have to come on. Just keep commenting. Make sure you share this out so other people can see. We're creating a platform so that people can talk freely. People can express what it is that's bothering them and how they need to heal. Talking about grief, talking about diets, making healthy choices, or the lack thereof. There's so many things that's going on with mental health. We're just bringing awareness. Um, you know, just bringing
Also
awareness to people.
the effects of sexual assault, unresolved
Yes,
sexual assault. Yes.
yes. So go ahead, Marie. As we end this session, I'm going to give you guys a chance to. Sorry, I ended up getting a blur, but I'm going to let Marie go first.
Okay, Anne Marie McKenzie, registered nurse, sexual assault nurse examiner, and
Popping up.
sexual assault recovery coach. I help women
Oh,
find trust, love, and enjoy intimacy after sexual assault. Connect with me at sarecoverygift.com. sarecoverygift.com if you need help rekindling trust, love, and intimacy in a relationship. sarecoverygift.com. The effects of sexual assault can be devastating to a survivor and lifelong. You are not alone. You don't have to try to heal this alone. Connect with me, sarecoverygift.com. Thank you, Jill.
thanks, Marie. So, yeah, we're giving everyone a chance to talk about it because we all have platforms. Marie is giving a free gift for those. If you know someone who is struggling, go to sarecoverygift.com and connect with Marie. So we all have platforms. We're all trying to build. We can get 10 people on this platform. And now we're going to be speaking with Dr. D, Dr. Dorothy. She can also let you know. And then at the end, we'll put up the books so you guys can see the books. So, Dr. D, you want to go next?
I'm Dr. D. I'm Dorothy Clark. I am on because I am well acquainted with grief. And as a result, I ended up starting a blog page and then publishing a book. But I started the blogging as a means of keeping my sanity after the younger of my two daughters, Courtney, died suddenly on a Sunday in April 9th, 6 years ago. It was my lifeline. I did not realize that I had been gifted with the ability to write. And I don't take credit for it. I see myself more as a recorder. At any rate, long before Courtney died, and long before my my firstborn grandson died, I was teaching school, but also working with grief survivors, working with people who had suffered loss, and not just the loss in terms of death, the cessation of life, but loss in terms of relationships, of plans, of hopes, of dreams, of jobs, of any and everything that can be, quote, lost by a person, and then trying to work with them to help them find ways to heal from the loss. But I am quick to say I'll never get over the grief that I experienced with Courtney's death, or with my grandson Philip's death, and many others. But I am a listening board, a listening ear rather than a board. I'm a listening ear, and try and help in any way that I can.
Thank you, Dr. D.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, guys. For some reason, you know what? We are breaking up for some reason. All of a
Start
sudden,
freezing.
it's slowing down. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, but you kept freezing sometimes.
Thank you for that, Dr. D. And thank you, Marie. Um, my doing whatever it does. We must have more people coming on, because all of a sudden my system is acting up. So you guys make sure you share, share, share. I appreciate you guys for coming on. Dr. D, um, I always, it's like I hear you the first time. For the first time, every time you tell that story, your story, and I know there's a lot of people on here that's grieving. And that is something that Dr. Dorothy and I are going to be doing. If you don't want to come on this platform, but you do want to talk, we have a private platform on patreon.com/ simply jewel. You can go there where we're going to go deeper, and it's private, and we're going to talk about grieving. And for Marie, she's the sexual assault recovery coach. If you guys can't, you can get in touch with Marie. But if Marie needs a platform where these people need to collaborate with other people that are going through the same thing with pain or what have you, feel free to get in touch with us, and Marie can meet us over there as well, and we can talk in private. Because I'm fully aware that a lot of people don't want to talk on these platforms. We're just having a conversation right now. We're just talking about um, the skinny. It is what it is. And we're trying to be honest and come up with a platform for people to meet. But if you really want to go private, go to the patreon.com/ simply jewel. But we're just acting like this is our front porch. That's what we should call it. Front porch conversation. and then we can get more people on here. Like I said, 10 people on a platform. And then if you want to go deeper, you can go to patreon.com/simplyjewel. So with that being said, I'm going to show the two books that these two ladies have on, that's circulating. You can get it on uh, Amazon for both, correct?
Correct.
Both of you
And
can go
wherever
on Amazon.
books are sold online.
Okay, so got it. Okay, so Marie's book is called Notes from, or I just did Things That Keep Me Up at Night. And she explained to you what it was all about. You,
Can
you
I give a
can
little brief on it?
also uh, go to go to essayrecoverygift.com for your free gift. That's for anyone who is suffering with loss and um, actually suffering with sexual assault, trying to get through a hard time. Please make sure you reach out to Marie McKenzie. And then we have the next book, which let me see. Notes from a Broken Heart. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Dorothy, she also has her blog, Notes from a Broken Heart, blogspot.com. So make sure you get in touch with these ladies. Notes from a Broken Heart. What I like about her book, Dr. D's book, is that they're numbered. Like each, it's like I don't even know. Let me ask. It's very interesting, very enlightening, and the words that her choice of words, I really appreciate that as well. I can just read something and it'll calm me down. So that's what I like about Dr. D's book. Marie's book, I like her Jamaican dialect. It is very, very, both books. You guys are missing out if you don't have it in your collection. Get it and pass it on to someone or buy one for yourself. And Mother's Day is coming up. So you got two different books, two different genres, and they are great. So with that being said, everybody, I appreciate it. Sorry for
Thank
all the
you.
music
Thank you,
coming
Jewel.
in.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
That
you
was
for those kind
thank
words.
you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate what
yes,
you
and you're pleasure. I always like being with you guys. Don't forget to come on next week, and we're gonna have some extra other guests coming on, and we're not gonna say who they are because guess what? Get in touch with me so I know for certain. But that's pretty much it for tonight. I thank you guys for coming on. Thanks for tuning in, and I am going to say good night. Like I said, sorry about the music throughout the show. We'll do better next time. If you guys don't mind hanging out for a minute, we'll go ahead and
Good night,
serenade them
everyone.
on the
Thank
way
you
Good
so
out.
much
night.
for
Okay.
joining us.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Can you hear that?
You're still live.
Well, it wants to now. It wants to act crazy, but we're going out. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Kathy.
Good night, Kathy.
Thank you for being here.
Hope to see you next Saturday.